Today we're going to talk a bit more in depth about these two topics because everyone in the manifestation space is discussing it. Law of attraction versus law of assumption. Which one is real? Which one works? What teachers should you follow? Etc., etc. The arguments are distractions. They're not necessarily two competing laws. They are two faces of the same law. One coin, two sides. And if you have only been working with one side, you may have been operating at half the power. And this is why there are certain caveats that come about when you're talking about only the law of attraction or only the law of assumption. Okay. And we're going to explain why, because you really need to use both of these in order to manifest. So we're going to be looking at both sides. We're going to understand what is actually happening at the deepest levels. And then I'm going to introduce you to the ancient practice that unlocks the full power of both. And not many people talk about it. I mentioned it previously in one of my last videos. So stay tuned because this will change how you move with your manifestations. Okay, I have some notes here, so my eyes are going to be directed to that sometimes because I want to make sure I cover every single thing in detail. So let's begin at the root. Basically, there's not one library of competing spiritual laws fighting for dominance. There is one creative principle operating through all of existence. And when we're talking about laws, there's many different principles and practices you can use for manifestation specifically, but they all point towards one single truth. That truth is your inner world creates your outer world. Simple as that. Not influences it, not attracts towards it, it creates it. And the law of attraction and the law of assumption are simply two different entry points into that truth. So two doors in the same room. The law of attraction speaks from the outside in. What you're emitting, what you're radiating, what frequency you're broadcasting out into the universe in order to attract what you want. It attracts like versus like. So basically the energy you carry draws the equivalent towards you. On the other hand, the law of assumption speaks from the inside out. It describes what you are, what you believe yourself to be at the deepest level. It says what you assume to be true becomes true. So your identity creates your reality. So we have law of attraction here. One describes the energetic current flowing outward. So you're broadcasting a signal and you want to attract something based on that same signal. One describes the identity that's generating the current. So inside out. And that's a law of assumption. So that's the two angles on the law. Kind of like the law of polarity. Like you need both sides. You need two things to create one thing. And I also heard that is like a principle of magic. Like you need one half of a coin and then another half of a coin to complete the circle to generate the thing that you desire. And you can't separate that. That's why you need to use both laws together in order to complete the manifestation that you're desiring. So don't worry, guys. You don't have to say, oh, now the law of attraction is outdated. You don't have to cancel the law of attraction. Okay, you actually have to use both. So the moment we stop listening to all these teachers about who's right and who's wrong, you can use both. Use both sides of the coin and see for yourself the change that it makes for you. But now that we have the basics down, let's look at the law of attraction first. Generally speaking, the popular description for it is think positive thoughts and good things will come to you, basically. Visualize what you want, feel good, and the universe will respond, right? And that's not wrong, but it's just incomplete because it describes a vibration as something that you perform, a feeling you put on, kind of like a costume rather than something that you generally are. And it's true that, yes, you can feel your way through things, and I have done that before, but you have to be very deep and committed about it. And that's where the law of assumption comes on. We're getting to there. So law of attraction, vibration at its real meaning is the total frequency of your being, right? It's not just your thoughts. It's your nervous system, your subconscious beliefs, stories playing beneath your awareness, your subconscious experiences, thoughts, desires, right? It's your body, it's your habits, the words you use, the way you hold yourself in a room. All that together creates a frequency. And that frequency dictates and organizes your experience. So what you feel, what you perceive, what you notice, what comes towards you, and what you repel. So when people say the law of attraction isn't working for them, what they're really saying is, I have been trying to perform a high vibration while my deeper identity is running on a different program. So basically, you're putting a smile on when you're depressed, like you're putting a face on. And that's where the other side of the coin, the law of assumption, becomes essential. I always kind of wondered about that because when the law of attraction was very popular, some teachers were like, okay, set your intention and then forget it. Forget it and it'll come to you. But that's can't be the case, because if you forget it and you're just operating your normal life is something that is the complete opposite of what you're attracting. You're performing habits and you're keeping yourself in a space that's the complete opposite of what you're manifesting. Then how would that help you when you just did like one, I don't know, let's say maybe 30-minute session of feeling into this law of attraction? Like, that doesn't necessarily compute, because everything is energy, right? So if you are only giving 30 minutes worth of, yes, focused and intense energy, but living the rest of your life, or maybe let's say the rest of the week or the rest of the month, in that opposite energy, it makes that moment of focused energy really tiny compared to how you're living in your day-to-day life. So how do you think this tiny piece of energy can transform into a life that you desire? So just think about that for a second. And I guess this is with like bigger manifestations, like maybe if you're manifesting something very small, like you're practicing with the law, so you manifest seeing a flower, seeing a sunflower today, then okay, yeah, that can work. But I guarantee you that you guys watching this, everyone wants to manifest something a little bit bigger than that in their lives. And that's where we have to use the law of assumption and do this thing called embodiment. So y'all have probably all heard about Neville Goddard right now. And this is where many different laws, including the law of assumption, comes from, that he's written about. So this is a man that spent his life teaching one thing, that your imagination is not a tool that you use, but it's who you are. It's the creative force of your existence. It is the language of the God inside of you. And the law of assumption, as Neville Goddard explained, states this: whatever you assume in your inner world will harden and take fact into your outer world. Not what you want, not what you visualize before bed. What you assume, what you deeply, persistently, unconsciously take as given. And he used a phrase that we should sit with for a while: the wish fulfilled. Not the wish visualized, the wish fulfilled. So that difference is in identity. For example, it's the difference between a woman who wants wealth and a woman who is wealthy. So the outer reality does not create the inner reality. Rather, the inner state creates the outer reality. Now, this is where the law of assumption does something that the law of attraction does not do. It goes beneath the vibration to the source of the vibration, which is your self-concept, who you are at the foundational level of your consciousness. Basically, you can try to feel abundant all day, but deep down inside, if you are still struggling with certain things, if you still have subconscious blocks, that's one caveat to the law of attraction that people state quite often. Those deeper assumptions is essentially the operating system that you're running off of, not the action that you've done. And the law of assumption is very powerful in that fact, because essentially it is change who you are on the inside, and the outside world has no option but to rearrange itself for that. So now we have the full coin. Attraction works on the vibrational field. Assumption works on identity. So it governs who you are and therefore what you emit. And here's the equation. Identity creates the vibration, and therefore the vibration creates the experience. Assumption feeds attraction, and attraction expresses the assumption. It's one coin with two entry points, but using both, it's essentially the same law, just for some reason people to separate it, because I guess this is a duality plane of existence here, but it should be the same law, essentially. Okay, so now I want to take you to an extra step to where most manifestation teachers don't normally take you to. Because knowing both laws and understanding them intellectually is not the same as actually activating it and using it successfully in your life. And there's a reason why the ancient mystery schools and esoteric traditions included this practice in their toolkit sometimes, and that is the ascesis, from the Greek word meaning training, discipline, practice. Okay, this is very important. In its deepest form, an ascesis is essentially self-denial. That's what it means. The deliberate withdrawal from comfort, from habit, from the pull of the lower self as a spiritual technology. Because habits can be bad to break. I know some of y'all have food. I have food habits that are hard because look at us in this world. Like, we are being attacked from so many different angles constantly 24/7. It's actually crazy. So in order to combat that, we need to change our programming. And the self-denial concept is not a punishment. It's not like suffering for its own sake, right? It's just a method of clearing the interference. That is why I have taken to fasting so very deeply, not only for the health reasons that push me towards that, but also spiritual reasons. So many people said before that you can't manifest, or you can't level up spiritually, or you can't have out-of-body experiences until you change the way you eat. And while I believe that's not necessarily true, certain changes that I have made to my diet, I don't eat like terribly, but certain changes have made an impact. And even if it doesn't equal an experience or a level up or a download, it still makes me feel more clear. It clears that fog and interference. So think about what happens during a prolonged fast, for example. I know this very intimately. I've done multiple prolonged over 72-hour fasts before in the past year. So when you deny your body its habitual gratification, the comfort, the predictability, the demands of your body, something shifts in your consciousness, not just in your metabolic system. All of a sudden you realize the noise quiets. Your lower self, so to say, your human body programming, which commands somewhat a lot of your attention, maybe consciously or unconsciously, now it stops commanding so much of your attention. And in that space, your imagination becomes razor sharp because you're not clouded with either being on a food high after you've eaten, or on the opposite side of the spectrum, those cravings, maybe the contents of the food, chemicals, ingredients that are not conducive for raising your vibration. So in this state, when everything is stripped down, your body is cleared. Now the assumption you're holding becomes the loudest thing in your field. In this space, your new identity has so much space to take root. Yeah. So fasting is one form of ascesis, and it's one that I love because I feel like majority of us have certain relationships with food that may not be helpful or healthy to us. And I'm not saying this in like a permanent never eat like certain types of food again, because I definitely don't. Like, one of the things I actually struggle with is ice cream. Like, I'm not going to give that up, and I can't. And it's good for me. Ice cream raises my vibration because I'm happy when I eat it. So like, why would I deny myself that my entire life? But the sugar is not good for me. I do have intolerances to like dairy, large amounts or even moderate amounts of sugar at this point with what I'm dealing with. So, and also I do want to live a healthier lifestyle. I don't need the extra calories all the time. So those are things I'm going with. But am I going to completely cut that out from my life? No. However, I am going to utilize prolonged fasts as an ascesis to temporarily clear my field, deny myself of my usual regular programming because I always want ice cream or other things, just to clear my field and focus on something else that is benefiting my life. So silence is another form of ascesis. They say silence is golden. Solitude, celibacy of attention. That means you stop feeding yourself every form of distraction, and maybe you do like a digital detox. So this is the intentional creation of sacred emptiness, because nature and consciousness doesn't really like being in a vacuum. So when you create a space by removing what no longer belongs, your assumption rushes to fill it in. Let's say you're meditating. You're meditating and you're trying to clear your mind, but you have all these random thoughts come up. Yes, if you meditate long enough, it will clear. But think of why you're meditating. You're clearing a space, you're clearing your mind in order to receive a download, right? So it's the same thing with meditation. Like once all those random thoughts and like programming of your brain slow down, quiet down, and eventually disappear, that's when you get to the state of actually being one with yourself, being connected to your higher self, to where you can then receive insights, downloads, awarenesses, and new information. So this is the full circuit that I want to put together for you. You assume the new identity. You align your vibration through attraction, and then you use ascesis to burn everything away in you that contradicts both. This is the complete practice. Now, let's give you a framework. So the first movement is assumption, like we said in our equation. Before anything else, before you try to feel better, before you try to raise your vibration, you must decide who you are, not who you want to be. So choose that identity, step into it as truth from this present moment and not a future destination. Live in the end, so to speak, as Neville taught. So this is the foundation. Then the second movement is the attraction. So once your assumption is set, work on aligning your full vibrational being with it. So that's your emotions, your body, your words, your environment, your daily habits. Let everything begin to reflect and reinforce that identity that you are assuming. So this isn't just performing a feeling, it's being consistent with who you declared yourself to be. And the third movement is ascesis, of course. Identify what is the program that you're running, what is interfering with it. So what habits, what inputs, what relationships, what internal dialogues contradict your assumption. And then begin the intentional withdrawal. You don't have to do it all at once, but just choose one thing, just choose one area. I recommend choosing an area that maybe a big habit that you notice that you don't like or that doesn't align with who you are assuming yourself to be, the better it will be for you. Because like if the thing that you're giving up has nothing at all to do with your assumption, then maybe choose something different. But I'm pretty sure if you have a habit that you're wanting to break or something that you want to give up, then it may have something to do with leveling up or assuming yourself to be the person who you want to be. For example, like I want to do a digital detox, but I know I can't right now because a lot of my work does involve a screen, my phone. I still have to use my computer, and I guess there's ways around that, but it's kind of difficult to do a digital detox when the person I want to become is a person that needs all these digital tools to run these different areas of creation for myself. But this is only temporary, so like set the amount of time. Like for example, for a prolonged fast, bare minimum is 3 days, 72 hours. There's also 5 days. I think I've tried to do 5 days, but I did 4.5 because I didn't have the electrolytes, and I listened to my body and my body said eat. So I just only completed the 4.5 days. Although it seems long, especially if it's maybe food or especially if it's a habit that you're trying to break, it's just temporary. And you'd be surprised how difficult it can actually be in the beginning. You notice all these thoughts coming into your head just like randomly. And it's like, if you really notice it, it's not even you thinking them. It's just your body telling you to perform this habit, to do the thing, because it's just programmed to do that. It's a programming. It's not you. Essentially, it is you because you created that programming for yourself, maybe, or maybe like it came externally, like, you know, like TV programs me to do stuff, but it's just a programming. You don't need to run it. You're not the one that's pressing that run command all the time, but it's just on. And if you want to turn it off, then you need to turn it off, but it's hard to stop a moving ball. So it takes some force to stop a moving ball, right? It needs to like decelerate first before it stops. You can't just like completely stop something, or else you're gonna get hit with some conflict, probably gonna get hit with some friction. So you don't have to do the ascesis, the self-denial, the habit breaking all at once. Just choose one thing to start with and let the ascesis burn away that thing that does not belong in the reality in which you are constructing. So these three movements work together as a system. Assumption sets the destination. Attraction aligns the vehicle. Ascesis clears the road. There it is. And with these three now working simultaneously, you're not just manifesting something and setting it and forgetting it. You're not waiting on the universe for an opportunity to pop up. You are consciously creating the reality that you desire. You're building your reality with the full weight of your being behind it, and that is powerful. So if you're like me, you're not here by accident. You've been in the manifestation space, you've read the books, you've subscribed to the YouTube channels, you listen to the teachers, you've done the visualizations. Yes. But you know that there is something more, like I did. And it's a deeper layer, an older truth behind this modern packaging. And now you have the full equation, the full circuit to use these laws and this ascesis practice to solidify and magnify your success in your manifestation. I just have one question. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it, Joe? Because none of this that I talked about works if you don't actually are consistent. See, consistency and motivation are the two things I believe holding a lot of people back from getting to where they want to be. And I'm going to go into all of that maybe in another video, because it's really clear when you notice how consistency works. You will always get what you desire. This is a fact. It is a formula. It's numbers based. So all this that I discussed, if you made it this far, will change your life. I am 100% certain. Will change your life. It will not work if you're not consistent, or you're not motivated, or you don't want something that badly. So go out and do it. Set a date. And if this landed for you, if you heard something that you haven't heard before, if you like what you're hearing, leave me a comment below and tell me what you've been working on, whether it was the law of attraction or the law of assumption, how did that go for you, or if you were using both, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and the result that you got from it. So also subscribe if you want to go deeper. I would like to cover things from really easy concepts to also really in-depth and spiritual topics, because I just find that so interesting. We are all learning every day, and we can all share our insights and our knowledge for other people to collectively level up together. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.